Fellow Toastmasters. Wait a minute, what does it say here? Is it meeting for Lawson? What fine?
Please record it.
Don't record. Today is our first meeting of the Toastmasters year 21-22. And this is our first trial run for a hybrid meeting. So please be patient with us, those that are here in person with me and those that are online. Before we get started, a little bit of business. We have one guest today that I can see physically, and I haven't been able to move screens to see if there's anyone remotely. So I would like to introduce our first guest for today, Alma Atic, and she's going to just give us a little background of how she found out about Toastmasters and what her expectations are from our group. Alma, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah.
You can actually talk in here,
No,
and then we can hear you in here.
Okay.
Don't even see me.
Hi everyone, it's nice to be here. My name is Alma Atic. I work in MTBF, actually in budget and finance, primarily in payroll. I just recently moved to accounting side of this corridor. So I'm very happy to be here. I actually heard about this club through my director, Tristan, and he actually recommended and has all the best feedback about it. So I'm very looking forward to see it, and no worries, I know these hybrid meetings go like this, but I'm very happy to see what you are presenting here and which skills to learn, and hopefully I join the club. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Alma. So I'm going to hand over the control of the meeting now to our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Maria Teresa, as we have no more business to discuss.
Thank you, Madam President and Presiding Officer. It's a great pleasure to see us so active. And today is our first hybrid meeting. Now, I had to look up the word hybrid because, I think of hybrid in terms of plants or animals, but in this instance, hybrid means a mixture. That means we have some people who are coming in person in AO 671 and some people who are online. So this is a bit of a challenge for us, but we're up to it. I think of a British billionaire who several days ago took off for outer space. His dream of over 17 years, he accomplished. We in this club are also pursuing our Toastmaster goals without interruption. We're not even taking a summer break. In any event, it's my great pleasure to be leading you through today's meeting. I posted in the chat our agenda, so I refer you to the agenda. As with most Toastmaster meetings, we have a prepared speech section. Unfortunately, we only have one speech today, but we're definitely looking forward to that one. We will have a table topic section, and then we will have our evaluation session. Other than that, there are no deviations to the agenda. So let's proceed. We're doing a new thing again in the club, and that we have a project from a very advanced pathway path given by Toastmaster Nicole. Are we okay there with the sound?
Yes.
In any event, we're okay with the sound. She's taken on a rather difficult project of managing a difficult audience. There are some things that are required for this. There are going to be certain people in the audience taking roles as so-called disruptors. This is a role play. Don't think these people are just obnoxious all the time. They have a very specific task to interrupt the speaker and make her life difficult. And the purpose of her project is to see how she responds to these interruptions. These interrupters are not known to Nicole, but I'm sure she will handle it well. So let's go over to her evaluate, perhaps to elaborate a little bit on the project. Toastmaster Silla, as evaluator for Nicole's speech, do you have anything further to say?
A point of order, please.
Oh, Mr. General Evaluator.
Toastmaster Maria Teresa, I should remind you, you might not know
Thank you. I'm
that
glad
there's
you
the
did.
general
Forgive me.
evaluator
But give me a little bit. I give now control of our general evaluator for today's meeting to basically introduce his team and to lead us through at a later part of the meeting, the general evaluation section. Toastmaster Tristan, the word is yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day and fellow Toastmasters. It's my honor to lead the feedback session of our meeting today. And we have built a team to perform this evaluation and provide feedback on today's meeting. First, we're going to have the evaluator of Nicole's speech. It's going to be Toastmaster Sila, and she will later introduce the objective of her speech. I also have Toastmaster Monica, who is the grammarian for our meeting today, and she will look at our use of the English grammar. And she has also selected a word of the day, and I'm turning over to Toastmaster Monica to give us the word of the day and encourage everyone to use it if possible in this meeting. Over to you, Toastmaster Monica.
Come on in.
Thank you, Toastmaster Tristan. Good morning, everybody. The word of the day today is bellwether. This is a word that derives from Middle English and is used for leaders or indicator of trends. So it's applied in an active sense to a person or group of people who tend to create, influence, or set trends. Back to you, General.
Thank you.
Would you repeat the word?
Yeah, bellwether. I will write it anyway in the chat.
Thank you. And our art counter today will be Toastmaster Rina. She will look for the use of filler words like throughout the meeting and will provide her report at the end of the meeting. Our timekeeper today is Toastmaster Gordana, and she will time the speech of Nicole, but she will also time the impromptu speeches and the evaluations. And she will give her report at the end of the meeting. She will show signs to the speaker when they reach green, when they reach the minimum recommended time, yellow when they're reaching close to the maximum, and red when they're reaching the maximum allowed time for the given speech. And our ballot counter will be Toastmaster Ivona. This is the evaluation team, and I turn back the control of the meeting to our Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Maria Teresa.
Can I say something as a ballot counter? Please send your votes to Bonus Galaxy. I'm participating as an online participant. And everybody in the room, if you could tear a part of agenda and give me ballots later. Thank you.
I have a little point, if I may.
Adult. Adult is not here.
She's joining online. She's joining online. Nicole wants to say something. No?
Yes, for the timekeeper, because this is a particular speech, so it's not 5 to 7 minutes, because I will be interrupted and I have to give explanations. So could you give a little bit more information as to when the green card comes up, when the yellow, when the red?
Yes, definitely. So your speech is 12, 14 to 15 minutes maximum. For the 12 minutes, I will have the green paper right here. Is it nicely visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the yellow will be 14 minutes. It's right here. And the red one is 15 minutes, the maximum. I think the others are staying the same. We have 1 to 2 minutes of a speech. We have 1 to 2 minutes of a speech for the table talks, and for the evaluators 2 to 3 minutes maximum.
Okay. And there's something else I wanted to say, if I may, is that for the ones who are on Zoom, we hear every single noise in the room.
Yes. Yeah.
So you might want to remain silent when I give the speech, but also when people are going to interrupt me, because otherwise I won't be able to understand them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. Have we settled all of that in the meantime? So let's continue. Toastmaster Silla, would you like to add anything along with Nicole's speech as concerning objectives or purpose?
No, I think, thanks, Madam Teresa. I think you have already covered the purpose very, very thoroughly. I just wanted to say, I guess, Tristan being a very good bellwether, that he already demonstrated a bit or give us a bit of tips, not tips, I mean, like as to, you know, what I might be covered in today's Nicole speech to interrupt the meeting, but like very politely and, you know, taking the leadership role. So that's all I can say for the time being. Thank you.
Okay, I see at least one person who I cannot recognize coming in as mobile. Mobile, whoever you are, welcome to our meeting. We're ready to proceed with prepared speeches. And Nicole doesn't really need any introduction, does she? She's a very accomplished Toastmaster. She's already reached level 3 of Pathways, giving several projects which have entertained. I personally take anything out of her speeches, everything. Today, she's presenting out of the Presentation Master Level 4. The title of her speech is Culture and Language. Culture and Language. The floor is yours, Toastmaster Nicole.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. It is doubtful that a language channels your thoughts. Or said some other way, language is not what shapes your view of the world. That's not what I'm saying. That's what an American linguist, John McWhorter, I hope I'm pronouncing his name well, that's what he said in a short video that our fellow Toastmaster, Adot, sent us on WhatsApp not very long ago. And it made me think a little bit. So is that statement, language does not channel our thoughts, true? Only partly true? And what are the consequences for us as Toastmasters? Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. First of all, let me be honest with you. This question has been studied by linguists, by anthropologists, by philosophers, not for years, but for centuries. And they still do not agree. So I'm not going to settle the question in 4 minutes. What I want to do is just to give you some food for thought. Let's go back to what Mr. Water said in his little speech. He said, take the ex-president Donald Trump, or the singer Bono, or the society lady Kardashian. They share the same language.
Where did you get that dress? It's really nice.
Does it mean that they share the same culture?
I was just distracted right now. I wonder if she sees me distracted.
I see Melanie. Melanie, yeah. Hi, Melanie. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry. Yes.
I see you was talking to your neighbor. Is that something you wanted to say?
No, I can wait till afterwards.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. So I'll go on. So, of course, there is maybe not so much in common between those people as far as culture is concerned. But let me take a more general example. For instance, if you take French people from Quebec, if you take, well, French-speaking people from Quebec, sorry. If you take the French people in France, or if you take people in Senegal, they share a language, French. But do they really share the same culture? That's doubtful. But if we look a little bit deeper, you have certain linguists that would tell us, okay, we might have different cultures in the same language, but there are things that we share that are deep inside, a priori, unconscious behavior that we have that are triggered by the language that we speak. Let me go back to English. Let me go back to the vocabulary that we use. You see, in English, for instance, if we take colors, we have the color blue. It's a general concept, blue. we have the same in French. If I ask you, what is the color behind me? You might say it's blue, unless I ask you to be far more precise. But in other languages like Greek and Russian, for instance, they have from the very beginning 2 words for blue. In Russian, it is голубой, синий, pale blue, dark blue. We see from the very beginning, people have in their mind unconsciously 2 colors where we see a general one. Let me take another example, which is in the structure of our language, which is a bit more difficult to tackle. And that's the question of time. You see, among us here, I suppose, that we all see time as a flow, like a river that starts uphill in the past, flows into the present, and goes away in the future. And our verbal system reflects that with the past, the present, the future. Well, mind you, it's not the case in all languages. Some linguists studied the Hopi language in some American native tribes, and they discovered that these people don't function the way we function. They see the manifest world and the unmanifested world. And in their world, what our present and what our future is, for instance, overlap. Because they have what is manifest to them and what is not manifest, maybe the domain of thoughts, of things that are unknown, or things that are in the realm of desires, which is something that we don't grasp. And it is very difficult for us to see time differently from what we have in our own language system. But let me give you a third example. An example you all know, the pronoun you, the way we address people. Yes, Tristan?
Nicole, I just want to jump because you're going to speak for a long time. It's a long time. I had a few thoughts when I was listening to you that came from my mind. First, I thought it was very good that you watched Adot's video. I think it was good for you as a member of the club to be interested in the video. And I thought then that you decided to share food for thought at lunchtime. I'm hungry. So there's food for thought. So I thought it was a good idea for you to actually bring that up. And then you also mentioned blue. And I love blue. Look, my shirt. It's part of the French flag. Blue is a beautiful color. It's one of my favorite colors. So I thought I think it's important. You're really talking to all topics which are really interesting for me, which makes a lot of sense. And I think everybody, and I see a lot of people dressed in blue in the room, Ivana, Sila, Melanie. So I think a lot of blue, and I think blue is amazing. It's the sky. There is no limit to blue.
Thank you, Tristan. Thank you for sharing your views, and thank you for putting some humor into the speech, because in a Toastmaster speech, there's always a need for some humor. And I think that's the little element that you put in there that maybe I didn't have. But thank you for that. You're right. Food for thought. So but let me go on with the third and last example that I'm going to give you, this pronoun you, which reflects the way we address people, which is the way we see the others. In English, whether you see one person or several, whether you know the person or you don't, it'll always be you. You know that in German it's not the case. You don't have one pronoun, you have 4 of them, according to whether you're speaking to one person or several, and according to whether you know the person or you don't know the person. But it's even more subtle than that, because if you want to establish some distance with a person in German, same in French, in Italian, and in some other Latin languages, you will use the Sie, that pronoun that puts some distance, and the person knows without you adding anything. And even if you know the person well, and you see the person
telling us something we already know. We know that in foreign languages, there's a see and a do. I mean, why introduce this into your speech? It's common knowledge that everybody realizes, not in English, but in other languages, there is a formal version and informal version. What's the point of this? This is total nonsense. I don't get it. Why do you think there's a
I'm
need
not
to do it?
saying-
Why do you think there's a need to pursue this line of thinking? It's so obvious that it exists in other languages.
Yes, but thank you for your remark, Maria Teresa. But what I'm saying here is not that there is a formal and informal way of addressing people, and that is there is a way of putting a distance between two persons. Persons who might have a different gender, also, and persons who might have a different status. It's not being polite or impolite. It's the distance that you put between you and the other, which is difficult to flex.
That, Nicole, I think it's the distance, also the respect. You know, when it's an older person, you want to show respect as well. At the same time, that can
excuse
be.
Me, so excuse me, I don't know. I don't see who is speaking. Sorry, who is speaking?
Right here, Gordana.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
So it's at the same time that, I mean, it's good because I feel it like it shows respect. But at the same time, sometimes the age is not so different in when two people address with each other with the formal you. Then one of the person can get a little offended and it's like, hey, I'm not that old. You don't have to say that, you know. So there's like two sides of it. It depends how you see it and how you use it, whether you use it properly.
Well, thank you. I totally agree with you. What I wanted to show you or to remind you is that different languages address the relationship between people in different ways. For some, status is very important. The number is very important. The distance you want to establish is very important. For others, it's not that important, or it's not that important, is that they don't have the same tools at their hands to show it. That's what I meant. And that brings me, as a matter of fact, to my second big point, which is what consequences do these things have, or does this theory, so to speak, have on us Toastmasters as communicators? And you see, you reminded us of one thing, and that is that in our club, we are very privileged, and we might forget it sometimes. And that is that we are in a very multicultural world and a very multilingual community. So that most of us speak at least two languages. I guess that all of us speak at least two languages, and some of us more. And what does that mean? It means that we have an insight, even unconsciously, into other cultures and other languages, which make us understand maybe better the way other people react in their own language and the structure that their language carries. But what I would like to say is also that we should never forget that when we listen to speech. We should never forget that despite the fact that we all speak in English, we might have unconsciously at the back of our head a different linguistic structure, which means that we might organize our speech differently. We might convey our message differently. We might even sometimes use times differently because we're sort of using the structure that we have in our own language. So when we listen to other people's speeches, we might want to be a bit tolerant there. The fellow Toastmasters and the guests. In my very, very, very humble opinion, but also as a former translator, I think that deep down, there is one way or the other, some connection between language and our view of the world. And this is the reason why I share the view of this linguist, Mr. Mark Walter, in the little film, the little video. And he says, if you want to imbibe in a culture, you have to control, at least to some extent, the language that culture carries. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Nicole. You went into brand new territory. And for those who were wondering, yes, the interruptions were on purpose, but I personally found we weren't aggressive enough. You got away pretty easy, Toastmaster Nicole. In any event, it's now the opportunity of everybody, both online and in the meeting room, to provide feedback to Toastmaster Nicole I'm wondering with the written slips of paper, how we will get our hands on that. But the ones that are in the chat can definitely give Toastmaster Nicole immediate feedback. 1 minute for this, Madam Timer.
Yes, 1 minute starting now.
Thank you, Gordana.
You could also send, if you all want, or email if you want. This paper is actually for the ballot count. Yeah, I mean, at some point, I don't know.
One minute's up.
Thank you. We now move to the next element of a Toastmaster meeting, the so-called table topic session. For the benefit of Alma as a guest, let me explain. You have to answer a question that you have no idea what the question's going to be. The idea is you learn to think on your feet. Now, for me, this meeting has been like an entire table topics section because of so many last minute changes, but we still are going to move ahead. I just would like to know who is available for a table topic in A0671.
Everyone.
Except the time.
I can't see you. So, I mean, in the table topics master can't see you. Can you maybe give me an idea of who you are? I see Tom, I see Rena.
Rena, we have Brian, we have Yara, we have Alma who's new, we have Ivana, Sila.
Gordana, but I would prefer not to be called because of the timing.
Okay, so
and also, yeah, just I'm sorry, Yara joined us a little later, but she's also a guest, so maybe we don't stress her out.
We don't ask our guests ordinarily table topics. Okay, I believe our table topics master has enough victims to choose anyway in the chat, and she can probably speculate as to who in the room she would like to ask. So now it's time to move on to this section of our meeting. With great pleasure, I introduce our table topics master for today, Toastmaster Adot. Toastmaster Adot.
Madam Toastmaster of the Day, I hope you can all hear me. I will put on my video in a second. I hope you can all hear me and see me.
Yeah.
Good. Good, excellent. It's great to see everyone in the room. I'm sad that I'm not able to join you, but we can join each other from anywhere in the world with the wonderful technologies of today. That said, I thought our table topics should be random as possible. And I think this gives us all a chance to become bellwethers. So my first question goes to Lily. Is beauty something that resides in the eye of the beholder, Lily? Is beauty something that resides in the eye of the beholder?
Thank you, Madam Topics Master, for that very interesting topic. Beauty is a response to love. When you receive love, you give beauty. When you feel love, the person who's giving you the love sees the beauty in you. And beauty is absolutely in the eye of the beholder, and it is something that we can create by giving love. The more that we can give our own love to things, to people, to those around us, the more we can create and enhance the beauty around us. I've even experienced this in my plants. One of my pot plants, I don't know whether somebody bumped it when going to the window to open the curtains. It's some sort of a bamboo tree, and the branch knicked completely, and I thought, oh no, it's going to break off. And I bandaged it up with the bandage that I had for my knee. And then I saw after a few days, it started to knick again at exactly that joint where it had bent over. And so I got an icy pole stick and stuck it and bandaged again with some more. And it seems like it survived. And I feel like my love for this plant has just helped it to revive. And I think it's really beautiful. Pardon me. That was really the red that I was surprised because I didn't see any green or yellow. No? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, there is supposed to be green and blue.
Okay, well, if I've spoken enough, that's my response. Beauty is a response to love. Thank you.
Indeed, we all have our own definition of what is beautiful. My next question goes to Rina. Rina, what habit do you have that you would most like to give up? What habit do you have that you would most like to give up? Toastmaster Rina.
Geez. Gosh, the most.
You don't have to be honest. You can make up something.
Well, I would like to be honest. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guest. Thank you, Adot, for this question. I would like to be very honest with this question. I would like to give up the idea of sleeping too long, because I enjoy sleeping, and many people believe sleeping is a waste of time. If that is the truth, most probably I am wasting my life actually, because I enjoy sleeping. You put me anywhere, even driving a car, I sleep. Sitting in a train, I sleep. I get into the plane, before the food comes, I sleep. And then I go to bed, within 5 minutes, I sleep. During the weekend, there are days I sleep more, about 10 hours, 10 to 12 hours. So some people say sleeping is very healthy, for it is good for your mental health, but some people believe it is waste of time. So if it is waste of time, I would love to give up that character of this sleeping. And instead of sleeping, I would do something creative, or go for a walk, exercise, or whatever. Thank you, Adot.
Well, I definitely enjoy sleeping. I couldn't agree with you more. My next question goes to Ivona. Toastmaster Ivona, in your view, which is worse? People who always talk about themselves, or people who always talk during movies? Which is worse? People who always talk about themselves, or people who who always talk during movies? Toastmaster Ivona.
I believe the worst is the situation when people interrupt whatever interesting is going on. And you mentioned movies, but it can be any other scenario, like you are enjoying a view, landscape, and somebody is chatting without interruptions. But it also depends on the person. If you very much like the person, somehow you won't be that disturbed as hearing the person who has maybe squeaky voice. And the other case you mentioned, people talking about themselves, I think it can be interesting because you can learn about them a lot from the verbal message, but also observing them. Even if you don't agree with their opinions, you can build your own. In general, I don't have anything about talkative people. Actually, I believe we all here at Toastmasters are or should be talkative, at least during our meetings. But I tend to admire more people who are capable to hear the others and can do this planned breaks and planned sessions of hearing others' opinions. Thank you.
Masterful. This brings me to my next question, which I was hoping to give to Pinar. Toastmaster Pinar, are you ready? They say cartoons are one of the most powerful forms of political commentary. Do you agree? Or why do you think that's the case? Cartoons are one of the most powerful forms of political commentary. Toastmaster Pinar. Again, you don't have to agree or disagree. You can make up a story. The floor is yours.
Cannot hear her.
You're muted.
We cannot hear you.
Pina. No, I think it's the mic.
Yeah, you will need to check your audio options.
She can probably hear us.
Select, go bottom left, select a microphone. There's probably a different microphone for your headset. On the bottom left, on the mute, next to the mute button, select a microphone, you can select the other one.
Yeah, Thomas, I think Thomas.
Otherwise, you do it like the cartoon in silence.
We have the main one.
Toastmaster Pinar, since it's not working, I will give you time to sort the audio out. And your question is still there. And I will ask a different question to Toastmaster Tom, who I believe is in the room. Am I right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good to see you, Toastmaster Tom.
Thank you.
Toastmaster Tom, in your view, which invention had the greatest impact on humankind's ability to share ideas? In your view, which invention had the greatest impact on humankind's ability to share ideas? Toastmaster Tom.
Well, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, that's a tough one because there are many inventions, and it depends now how advanced I want to be or how modern, because there are also so many ways to share your ideas. I would say when we go back to the history of methods of sharing events, probably the first important one was the invention of printing, book printing in Gutenberg's times. Of course, nowadays, when you ask somebody, it's definitely the internet. I'm not sure which direction to go, because I believe it depends on how you share your thoughts, and that's actually the interesting part of it, that the media influences also the ideas then that you will share. So you will find different ideas shared by book and different ideas shared by internet. And nowadays also the influence is debatable, because people trust more some source and don't trust another source. So I'm actually not clear on which one is the greatest invention. I gave you two ones, there are probably a lot more, but I'll leave it as it is for you.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Tom. Toastmaster Pinar, are you able to, it's impossible, is it? That's a pity.
No.
It's a real pity. I'm sorry about that. And on that note, may I ask the Toastmaster of the day whether I can ask another question, and who have I not asked? Who doesn't have a role and has not spoken today? Show yourself.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Who in the room would volunteer just to stand up and speak?
There he is. They can see you and we can hear you.
Well, I can't, who's that waving?
Brian.
Brian Boyer.
Brian
Brian.
Boyer. Okay, Brian is your next table topics person.
Waving the smoke.
I see the green.
Brian Boyer, my apologies for not even seeing you. The camera doesn't see everybody very well. Right, so I'm wondering whether I should give you Pinar's question or I leave that for Pinar for next time I do this. I think I'll leave Pinar's question for Pinar. Your question, Brian. Cell phones and smartphones have allowed us to access other people in ways we never dreamed of 20 years ago. Do you think that's a good thing? Toastmaster Brian. Cell phones and smartphones have allowed us to access other people in ways never dreamed of, even 20 years ago. Is that a good thing? Toastmaster Brian.
Thank you so much. I experience that daily with what we do at work and the way my family communicates with people far away. And I think one of the very excellent things is you're able to contact people that you haven't seen for a long time, perhaps, or people that are far away. It's so much easier to communicate with people overseas than it was even 20, 23, 25 years ago when I came here the first time. It's easier to even speak on a regular phone type connection with your smartphone. But the fact you have video and things like that, it's almost science fiction from back when I was a boy. However, in the negative part about it is that the frivolity we have in being able to communicate so easily and so flippantly leads to a lack of concentration on what we're saying and the kind of things that we used to say when we'd write a postcard or write a letter that has more of a permanence to it. So there's a shift in the way we communicate, the way Thomas was talking about when the printing press came around. It's a whole paradigm shift. And there's some good things, but there's some things that are kind of dark and kind of sad that are affecting us culturally. And just the way when the printing press came in, there was upheaval in society. Such may happen now, and we have to be prepared to deal with that. So I think there's good, but I think we also need to raise a little bit of a red flag.
Fellow Toastmasters, that brings me to the end of my table topics questions. Thank you very much for your wonderful mastery of the topics. And I hand the microphone, the screen, back to the Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Maria Teresa.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Adat. I was willing to answer every question. They were brilliant, really enjoyed the session. The only thing was not being able to see the people and know who we could ask. We'll have to think about that. I mean, this is a trial run. We expect things like this to happen. Just like I'm wondering how we're going to determine the best table topic speaker, because we have some people physically in AO6 and some people online. Ivana, do you have access to the chat online? Because I see you here at Ivana's Galaxy. If we would send our messages in the chat, could you consolidate that with the written slips?
Yes, thank you.
That's wonderful. Above and beyond the call of duty. Thank you very much. Speaking of which, Brian, it's great to see you. I have not seen or heard you in a Toastmaster meeting in over years. I think this demands a round of applause. Great to have you back.
Well, I just had enough online meetings. I needed to have a real meeting. I couldn't stand to spend my time off looking at a box. It's kind of related to what I just said earlier.
I'm sorry, but I didn't hear anything of that, but I'm sure it was eloquent. Whatever you say always is worth it.
We heard it, that's all that matters.
I'm sorry? You know, this is a little bit
Nothing.
strange. It must be. Go ahead.
Brian was just commenting that he was tired of having online meetings and he wanted the face-to-face, and he's happy that he's with us all face-to-face. And then we giggled, and then you thought we were laughing at you. We weren't.
Well, Brian, we expect now to see you at every Toastmaster meeting in the future. Having said all of that, let's move ahead to the evaluation section. I'm sorry? I must be honest, I really feel very disconnected not being in that room. I miss the rapport and the camaraderie that goes on. But we continue with the evaluation section, which is an important part of a Toastmaster meeting. We get to hear what we did right, but we also get to hear what we could do better.
May I say something?
Point of order?
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you. I raised my hand, but it wasn't working. Just to perhaps remind everybody who answered what for the purposes of the ballot, I thought I should perhaps tell you who spoke about which topic, okay? So the first speaker was Lily. She talked about beauty being in the eye of the beholder. Second one was Rena, who talked about the habit she'd like to give up. Then we had Ivona, who had to tell us what she felt was worse, talking during a movie or people who talk about themselves. Pinar was unable to speak for technical reasons. Tom spoke about which invention has had the most impact on the communication. And Brian talked about his feelings about whether cell phones and smartphones are changing our lives for the better or not. I hope that will help you with the vote. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master, for that very concise recap. So now everybody has no excuse why you can't vote for the best table topic speaker. Please forward that to Toastmaster Ivana or indicate that in the chat. Let's move ahead and get on to the evaluation section, which is going to be led by Toastmaster Tristan. Tristan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. And it's my great honor to walk you through the most important part of our meeting, the evaluation part, getting a feedback on how we did individually and collectively in our role. And to start this evaluation part, I would like to invite Toastmaster Sila to give her evaluation on the speech delivered by Toastmaster Nicole. Over to you.
Thank you, Tristan. And thank you very much, Nicole, for trying something new. I think the club is definitely, of course, also you a bellwether, because first hybrid meeting, and then you also try a project demonstrating to us how to deal with difficult audience when delivering a speech. The main objective is more we learn the techniques that Nicole have applied for a setting that is outside of the club. So yeah, I just really wanted to say thank you for trying something new and also dealing with all the difficult, challenging audience in a very graceful manner. So very calm and professional. And so I would evaluate Nicole's speech by first giving a bit of the overall impression of how I see the way that she deals with challenging audience. Then also a bit of the walkthrough of the types of difficult audiences that we might have. And in the end, just a bit of the pointers that we might need to think about. And so I think Nicole has a very graceful way of dealing with the challenging audience. And sorry, just one point, the evaluation is mainly based on evaluating on her strategy, not so much in terms of the content of the speech. So I think for me, this is a very difficult part because the content of her speech is very interesting. So part of me, I really want to listen to her speech, but the focus is on her strategy. So I can see that by dealing with the challenging audience, most almost all of them, she would basically start by saying thank you, actually like keep calm and smile at them. And also one way I think which is pretty smart is give the positive sort of a confirmation, affirming, addressing and acknowledging the challenging audience, even though the inputs that they get might be really challenging or disruptive to the delivery of her speech. She actually sort of acknowledge and thank them and acknowledge them. And I think that is a very powerful strategy in terms of sort of diffusing it already. But of course, as we can see also, it's a little bit different in terms of different challenging audience. The first one is Melanie, who is actually a more the chatty type. She was talking to, Toastmaster next to her, like Gordana. And I think the interesting part is also like when Melanie was talking in the room, like we were not aware that this was prearranged. So actually there were people going to her and trying to ask her to. So I think that also, is more like a real life situation, and we can see, if time is off, oh my God. So that this she is very much into her role, and Nicole was like still keeping calm and saying thank you. And then next is Tristan, who is more like a talker, and was also really into his role. Kept talking nonstop, and actually at some point it reminds me of one of my colleagues who has always been doing that. So I think that sort of skill is very important to learn how to do it. But Nicole was more like, with Tristan it's a bit more humorous. I can see like because to sort of to try to she actually let him finish like most of his sentences, and then but use humor sort of to diffuse it. And then with Mother Teresa, I think that's also a very careful arrangement that we have. Is like she's the argue member who has very strong opinions about her ideas, but at that point I think Nicole's way of doing it is a bit more affirmative, and she actually sort of tried to, apart from saying thank you and smile, but try to also clarify her position and bring it back to the speech again. So, and I think that's also a pretty smart way, because when someone who seems to be a bit more affirmative, you have to also be a bit firm into your position. And the last one is Gordana, who is also the interrupter member, who actually then Nicole is also saying thank you to her and try to diffuse it. Just 2 points I think I wanted to highlight is I can see things starts to escalate as we have more interrupter. We saw it in the chat that someone else also wants to jump in and to interrupt. Like, is it like others should also play a part? So I think this is one thing that we all need to bear in mind when addressing challenging audience. We better address it like right at the beginning in order to sort of don't let it escalate too much, because then there might, in a real-time situation, I'm thinking that might invite more interruption into the meeting. And the second point that I wanted to highlight is, and that's the challenging part, which Nicole actually did it very gracefully, and actually this is a hybrid meeting, so we have interruptions both coming in the room, like online, and so, but she's very sensitive to all the interruption that is coming in. And the hybrid meeting mode, now I'm just talking to the computer, but not really talking to the people in the room. I also find it a bit difficult. So I guess this is also something we need to adjust as we adopt a different way of meeting. So thank you. Sorry, I used too much time.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sila, for your thoughts and a comprehensive evaluation. Speaking of time, more timer. Toastmaster Gordana to give us a report on the timing. This one you will not be able to escape.
What? I'm sorry?
You will not be able to escape. I have to speak now.
All right. So first, I apologize to Rena, who was it, Rena or Lily, that I turned on the wrong the wrong color than the first one. So you still did very well. My clock was ticking. I didn't mess up the time, but I apologize for raising up the yellow card. So in terms of time, Nicole did very well. She was supposed to be between 12 and 15 minutes, and she did 12 minutes and 40 seconds, which I think is great besides all the interruptions. The rest, so Lily, Rina, Ivona, and Tom, they all did within the 1 minute and 30 seconds. And Brian did just 1 minute and 59 seconds, which was right before the 2 minutes. And Sila was a little over time, as you saw, but I think we all wanted to hear the details. It was 6 minutes, 3 minutes was the maximum, but it was still definitely worth it. So thank you very much. Back to you, General Valerio.
Thank you, Toastmaster Gordana, for your report. And I would like to turn to Toastmaster Rina for her report on accounting.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, I was also counting the repeats and also the gaps. So Maria Teresa had just 1 repeat, and Nicole 3, Tristan 3, Sila. You have, one has to be very careful when you talk, because it is very, it's blended in the sentence. So you said many times and by of a, try to 3 times. So it was gap, repeat, and a. It's very blended in, very nice to see, very nice to hear. But 11 times, Gordana just 1, Lily 1, Ivona 4 times, Tom 3 times repeat, and Brian 2 times repeat. This ends my report. Repeating the sentence, repeating the words. Okay. So, and repeating the words.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rina, for this report. And in a normal in-person meeting, we would have a little kitty or money collector in the room, and we would collect, I think, 10 cents or 20 cents. Yeah. Don't remember.
One euro is the maximum.
Exactly. If you to encourage people not to use filler word, and I do use a lot of them, so that's why I'm online and not in the room, so I don't have to pay. And I turn over to Toastmaster Monica, who is our grammarian on this meeting, to give us her report. Over to you.
I couldn't identify many errors actually. The only error that I came to my mind that I noticed was that someone say capable to hear others. I would have said capable of hearing others. Then I like the word communicate flippantly. I mean, it's something I haven't heard in a long time, and I think it's a very gracious way of saying that trying to be amusing when most people expect you to be serious. The word of the day, it was used 3 times, once by Adot and twice by Sila. This ends my report. Back to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Monica, for your... I will not call on the ballot counter, Toastmaster Ivona, to give her results immediately. I will let the Toastmaster of the day or the president to announce this, because I think that's where tradition is and where it should be placed. And it will provide time for Toastmaster Rina to eventually take a ribbon out of the box, if she... So you can defer, because we have to establish tradition. And here comes my report. Of the meeting today. And obviously, it's the first time we've done any hybrid meeting, and actually in-person meeting to a large extent today. We had done one only last year after the first lockdown. And I must say that it was an experience in itself. First, I could sense, even without being in the room, that we have to get used to being in the room together and how we play the room, how to play inside the room, because we got very used to do it, everybody in his little box and in their little space. But actually, it's quite a challenge to find ourselves back into the room and find our habits of the meetings and getting used to each other. And even without being in a room, I could sense that. We could also sense, and that's an important takeaway for our work experience, we could sense that the people who are not in the room, who are connecting remotely, somehow feel that they're missing part of the meeting. You know, you had and as Toastmaster Maria Teresa has highlighted, you could sense that there was a special atmosphere in the room, and that if you're outside of the room, you might not be feeling the same experience. And actually, you will see it will be quite interesting in your workplace as we're moving to more hybrid meeting. So obviously a few things we need to think about this hybrid meeting. Obviously we started late because we had a few technical issues, but I'm congratulate Melanie, Tom, whoever helped in preparing and managing this first hybrid meeting. I'm quite impressed. It went very well. A few things we might want to think is making sure from a noise reduction that always the people are muted in the room if they're using another device and you've been using another device. So it facilitates the sound for everyone, because otherwise we could hear a lot of interference when we were outside. Maybe something to think when we're doing a hybrid meeting is maybe to use a phone as the camera for the people who are outside, and you put the phone on a little stand like this, and you move the phone inside the room to the person who speaks, so they can speak into the phone and see them. And then the image would project on the screen you have in the meeting room, and it would be center stage for the people who are hybrid. So maybe something you want to think further. Well done, Ivana, to have planned immediately your way of taking the ballots and using your phone. I think that was pretty smart way. The second point, it was not a usual meeting for our two guests, because we had a very, what we call a special speech or a special, it's not a traditional 5 to 7 minute speech. It was a different exercise. And I felt a bit, even if Toastmaster Maria Teresa introduced the context of the meeting, it's a bit of an unusual, non-classical meeting, but I thought it was quite fun and worked out pretty well on how you did it. And I think Nicole did very well at managing this situation in that way. So I thought it was an interesting concept, but not a classical meeting in the thing. And finally, a couple of things in terms of order, because, you know, we have some Toastmasters who are very strict on respecting what we are supposed to do in the roles. And first, Toastmaster Gordana, as the timer, you put the red flag at 12 minutes for Nicole. And that's what I saw on my screen. And I had the stopwatch because I had to think, when will I do my interruption in her speech? So that's why she'll probably also stop, or I don't know if she even noticed. But so watch out, it's green, yellow, and black. And the biggest affront, faux pas, was done by Toastmaster Maria Teresa, the Toastmaster of the day, my living legend of Toastmaster. How dare the general evaluator. I was like, I was totally speechless that she could do that to me. And but I'm sure she will improve at her next meeting. And on that note, I turn back the control of the meeting to the Toastmaster of the day. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Tristan. Even legends make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. To quote from a very famous movie, one of my favorites. I love this meeting. You're quite right about those who are attending online somehow feel a bit disconnected, but I felt we had a really good spirit. We had laughs, we had fun, we had information, everything a Toastmaster meeting should include. But I appeal to you, please don't wait till the last minute to show up or to confirm. We had problems 24 hours before today. We didn't have a general evaluator or a Toastmaster of the day. Nicole's project needed people who were on board to take specific roles. We didn't know he even was coming in some instances. Please, I appeal to you, please sign up for roles. Please confirm you're coming. It's possible you can't come, say I'm not coming. What's so hard about that? In any event, it's a great pleasure to end this meeting on a positive note and tell you, I think for a hybrid meeting and a trial run, we exceeded all of my expectations. With that, I return control of the meeting to our president and presiding officer, Toastmaster Melanie.
Well, I can only agree with Toastmaster Tristan and Toastmaster Maria Teresa. I think the meeting was a great start. I'm going to address the audience this way, okay, because they're here. It was the first hybrid. It was the first of a new Toastmaster year. And if it starts off like this and we can all have a laugh and keep the spirit going, I think that's what's going to make us really want to come to these meetings. We do have a winner for the topics, table topics, and it is Rena. So we get to keep it on Rena. And unfortunately, Yara, who was one of our guests, just snuck out before I could ask her. She had a meeting. She had a meeting, what her opinion is. But Alma's still here. Alma, would you like to just tell us a little bit about what you think, if you're coming back, if you think we're all crazy?
No. I honestly think I'm definitely coming back for the second meeting. I really enjoyed today. It was a different energy. It was really a lot of humor included as well. And it was interesting to see, because I also thought that you were chit-chatting just because you had to say something, and that is not interruption. So I see real scenarios that we could all benefit from, and I would be happy to be back and to see what comes next. Thank you all.
And that's my message to you all. If we could bring in one member each, preferably the male gender, because as you can see, we dominate these men here. That would be my mission as president for 21-22. So on that note, we're going to meet again. We're going to try to do hybrid. I won't be here on the 27th in person because I'll be on annual leave. So whoever is here, if not, we all have our laptops if it doesn't work out, and I'm going to get a crash course in how Zoom works. So enjoy your afternoon, enjoy your lunch, and see you all in 2 weeks. Ciao.
Bye.